expressed by participants in the following public affairs program do not necessarily reflect the position or beliefs of WDEF or its staff.
This is Point of View, celebrating a world record-breaking 62 years of quality public affairs programs from the studios of WDEF News 12, Chattanooga.
Welcome to Point of View. What's important in youth communication? I'm your host, Nayada Cancel, and co-hosting with me today is Ruth Carter Hickman. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Nora, for having me.
We have a great panel of hosts today.
We do. Let's introduce them. We've got today joining us Vincent Phipps from Communication VIP, and we've got Deshaun Thomas from Ottawa High School, and Alexandra Cope, independent study and high school student. Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome. I'm going to get right to it. What's more important, personal or electronic communication?
Personal communication.
And why is that?
Because when it's personal, you're actually talking to people, and if you're on your phone talking to somebody, you're not going to have the social communication with people.
I agree with her. Personal communication is easier to do than text messaging because you can get to the point and say what you have to say.
Well, with that said, why does your generation choose to text instead of talk on the phone?
Because some people, they'll get scared and freeze up and don't know what they have to say in person, and they'll rather text it to them to make it easier for them.
It's also more convenient, so you don't have to go out of your way to meet people to talk to them, and you could just send a text.
Vincent, what is the vital importance of, they having different manners of communicating?
It's important to know that effective communication is the foundation of everything that you're going to do. When you have two phenomenal young people like them, they may pick up the telephone and ask for an interview, or they may show up in person in order to properly shake someone's hand. It's knowing how to modify what you say based on who you say it to. You can't get body language in a text message. You can't get voice inflection in a text message. You need to be able to convey yourself effectively as a professional, and business owners and other corporations, they are thirsty for young people who can introduce themselves, finish a sentence without saying or and then I was like.
So can you give us an example of that? How do you properly introduce yourself on a job interview?
It's in 3 steps. You want to extend, shake, release. For example, if you come in, shake your hand firm, eye contact, good afternoon, my name is Vincent. Instead of, hey, my name is, you've already lost the job right then.
So I know you guys have personal handshakes with some of your friends on campus. Can you guys demonstrate that? What does that look like?
Well, one of them is like this, and
Yeah, basically.
Same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Would that be different than the way you greet your family or, let's say, friends outside of school?
for me, as friends outside of school, I would greet them like that, but family members, I give them a firm handshake.
Firm handshake. And yourself?
Probably just like a hug.
Okay, so with all this drama and bullying online, what do you guys feel about that? And have you ever experienced that in high school?
I haven't never experienced online bullying, but I don't think it's right for someone to bully someone else online. I think the person that's getting bullied should go to somebody and tell them instead of holding it in.
Alex?
Well, I've never personally experienced it, but there are people at my old school that I used to go to that have been harassed on this account that was made specifically for my school and exposing people and bullying them online.
When it comes to the bullying, understand that weak people are bullies and that confident people don't get picked on. If you are a smart person like Deshaun or Alex, if you portray confidence and you believe in who you are, people leave you alone. But if you show weakness or timidness, a weaker person sees somebody who's weak and says, I want to pick on them to make themselves feel better. If you like who you are, stand up for yourself. Doesn't matter about your size, your gender, your age. If you believe in who you are and you're confident people don't get picked on as much or it doesn't last as long. If you show weakness, more bullies will come. Stand up for yourself, they'll go away.
But isn't that part of the issue, Naya, when you can hide behind a text or
Absolutely.
Facebook?
Even the
Yes,
cowards,
absolutely.
they will sit there and type and text and Facebook and Insta tweet and all that stuff you guys do. They'll sit there, but they'll pass you in the hallway, say nothing to you.
Absolutely. You see that on a regular basis. Do you guys feel like communication is changing in the world, even within your age range?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like our generation is not as social, and like when we get older and we get put in the situation where we have to, get a job or communicate with people, we don't have that skill.
Vincent, how do they translate from their teenage life into, say, after graduation and they go on to college or jobs and interviews, that LOL and life is no longer expected. You're expected to be a little bit more professional. How do you translate?
You have to expand your social circle. You just can't hang around the people who are your age, of your mindset, because you'll never grow intellectually. You have to be around people who are smarter than you, older than you, people who might read books, people who may travel, people may be in a different socioeconomic background. If you just hang around the people that you currently are, you're limited to your growth. You got to hang around people who look differently than you, who do things that are differently than you. Don't be afraid to expand your comfort zone. You want to bring people into your life who are doing better than you. If you're the smartest person in your group, get some new friends.
So be specific, though. Let's say Deshawn, and I know Alex is new to the area.
Okay.
What steps should she take personally to grow
Have you
her
ever
circle?
been to a poetry reading? See, most people. What about an opera? No, see, right there, right there. See, go by yourself. You'll meet somebody there who's probably been to it before. Ask them, what's this play about? Or how do I write a poem? Or what's this performance about? Go and do things outside of your comfort zone. You're guaranteed to meet new people. When you meet new people, that's where the relationships come. That's where understanding comes in. That's where comprehension comes in. Hanging around, same music, same books, same TV shows, same person. New experiences, better person.
What are the challenges you guys face when you miscommunicate through text or online? Share some examples.
Well, example for me is like if I send something to someone and the autocorrect button, it's like it types in something else and that person gets offended and takes it the wrong way, and I have to go back to them and explain how I meant it.
You blame Apple.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That voice to text is deadly.
What about you, Alex?
Probably for me, I would say tone is definitely something that happens, because I would say something to my friend and I would mean it one way and they would comprehend it a completely different way.
Absolutely. You guys have the professional here on communication. What questions do you guys have for him?
The proper way to like, if you
Stop saying to like. Just say it.
Proper
No
way.
ums, no uhs, no likes.
proper way to have an interview.
The first thing you'll want to show up with are questions. If you're going to interview with a Volkswagen or a Blue Cross, do some research first. Have some knowledge before you go in and be able to ask them some questions. You'll look more impressive.
And they got it easy today. You guys got Google,
Internet.
you can search.
We had encyclopedias. We had to go to the library to research. It's right there.
You
So
had to pick alphabetically.
dress nicer than you think you should. If you don't have a suit, borrow one. Show up early. Show up with questions. Take notes.
What about you, Alex? What questions do you have for Vincent?
No ums.
Sorry.
See, no ums. That's okay. That's okay. This is part of it. You're thinking right now. Just pause, then speak. No you'll sound more professional.
I can't think of anything.
That was perfect, though. See how good that was? See, if you said, can't think of anything, I'm thinking you're unclear. But if you go, can't think of anything, solid professional. These are the things that will rob you of your professional polish. Dropping volume, low eye contact, using slang. These are the things that older people like me and these older sexy people right here, these are folks that look at those ums and uhs and volume drops as if you're unprepared and unprofessional. You won't get the respect that you deserve.
Vincent, what happens if they're not brought up in an environment like probably these two where the slang is used in the household from the mother and the father? How am I supposed to speak correct English? What advice would you have for that?
There's situational communication. If you're in your living room hanging out with your buddies, then it's okay to use slang. If you are only around people who have slang, find the person who is the nerdiest, dorkiest, school pet teacher's person you can find. Hang out with them. Ask them what's going on. Introduce yourself. You guys are cool. A really nerdy person would love to have you as a friend. Instant connection. Okay? That's what you want.
Do you guys still, communicate via writing or emails at all?
Never.
I don't.
See, they're canceling cursive writing in schools now. It's being abolished because nobody writes in cursive.
Can you guys share with us the top 5? Like, how would you rank the ways that you choose to communicate?
Number 1 will be text messaging, and 2 will be like Snapchat and Facebook Messenger, and then last will be phone call.
What about you?
I would agree, and then I would put face-to-face at the very end.
Why is that? Why is face-to-face at the end?
Well, I feel like it's just easier to send a text, and sometimes when you're face-to-face, it's more like, makes you more nervous.
When you see statistics, you see that teenagers text just as much as adults, and adults obviously have different reasons for texting. How do you guys feel about that?
I think adults don't know how to like come to us and talk about like text messaging and explain what they want us to do through text messaging.
Are you saying we're not cool?
No.
Just clarifying that.
Well, why don't you clarify what's cool? Like, educate our viewers right now on some of the text lingo, like LOL. What does that stand for?
Laugh out loud.
Okay. How many of you knew that? Give us some more.
Like emojis, definitely. Well, my mom uses emojis all the time, so.
So she's a cool mom.
See,
I guess.
everything capitalized means what to you?
Like you're yelling.
Exactly. My daughter sends a text message to my father, and he replies back, "Call me," in all caps. My daughter sends me a message, "What's wrong with Grandpa?" I reply back, "What do you mean?" He's yelling at me. Did you talk to him? No, it's a text. My dad can't see.
So he had pushed the
Exactly.
all caps.
So you guys in here yelling. It's like, pick up the phone.
I'm going to give you one last opportunity to ask Vincent another question.
Make it a doozy. No ums, no uhs, no likes.
I'll help
And
you.
if so, okay,
Let's
go ahead.
let's talk about what are your 3 points, your 3 takeaways you want our viewers to get on youth and communication with us trying to understand you guys.
It pays off more to be face-to-face with people, and you will be a more sociable person, and
Help her out, Deshawn. What do you think?
Texting.
Do less texting.
And more?
communicating.
No, not an in sight. Beautiful. Beautiful.
They did
The
beautifully.
future is in great hands with you two. Thank you, Deshawn. Thank you. You guys are great.
Thank you so much for joining us on Point of View. Please stay tuned when Donna Lowe talks about the 2 Chattanoogas. Is there a difference? Does it make an impact?
Eric Avanier covering the stories that affect your city.
New law will impact thousands.
Stories that affect your neighborhood.
Protesters gathered last night.
Stories that impact you.
The gunshot victims just arrived at the hospital.
Eric Avanier and News 12 now. Anytime, anywhere.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Join us for Point of View, weekends on News 12 now.
So I've come up with a family emergency plan.
Great. What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
How will we know what to do?
You won't.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
And me too. Thanks for this, sweetie.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hello, and thank you for joining us again on Point of View. I'm Donna Christian Lowe, alongside guests Franklin McCauley and Demetrius Coonrod. 2 Chattanoogas, the racial divide. Are we truly making progress, or is it just another conversation? So, welcome, Franklin. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you for coming, Demetrius.
Thank you.
So, why are we still talking about race today, Franklin?
Because we're way behind. We
Way
haven't
behind.
solved it.
Okay. So, you have a lengthy history dealing with race matters and talking about race. So, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing in Chattanooga.
I was born with 3 privileges: white, male, and Macaulay. Macaulay name. Didn't earn it. I was born with it. Raised racist until I was 20. talked to 2 black kids in Memphis who all of a sudden taught me that these 2 black kids were smarter than I was, and I was wrong about race and black people. Dropped out of college, went to the Navy, came back, married my childhood sweetheart. Eventually ended up in Chattanooga, said to my father, I really want to teach at Macaulay, but you got to integrate. He said no. I went to Howard High School. Thank goodness they took me. Dr. Clifford Hendricks, greatest principal I ever worked for. Went to Chicago for further education, St. Louis, principal of the high school for 22 years. Came back with my wife, Teresa Bramfast, Macaulay, here. Looked at Chattanooga, thought things were going to be great. Went to some venues where there ought to have been black and white. There were only black and us. Went to some venues that were only white and no black people. Wondered why in the world, and then said to my cousins, Eleanor Macaulay Cooper and Mel Cooper, what has happened? And they said, nothing. Nothing has changed. And that's where we are, I think. Now, that isn't the reason, but that's where we are.
So that is how Chattanooga Connected was born, you
That's
and
how
your
it was born.
cousins. Now, Chattanooga Connected, I know you're familiar, Demetrius, with Chattanooga Connected. Yes, I am. But let's talk about that. Now, I did a little research, and when I talked to people of color, they said Chattanooga Connected is just a conversation about race over dessert. How is that going to change our community? How is that going to change and impact race?
That's a good question. What we found out was people aren't going to cross cultural things. Whites aren't going to black things because they're scared. Blacks aren't going to white things because, for one reason or another, they don't want to be there. Somebody has to start talking. So we said, okay, what can we do? Donna, there's only so many things you can do. Okay. One of the things we thought we could do was start the conversation. So we did. In our house, we started a conversation. If white and black people don't talk with each other and don't know each other, nothing ever happens. I still have white people who say to me, Franklin, what do you say to a black person? And I stick out my hand and I say, hello, I'm Franklin McCall.
So when you talk about race, Demetrius, Eastdale, you're the president of the Neighborhood Association in Eastdale. When you look at the crime, the murders, the guns, all the violence in your community, do you think a dessert conversation is going to help your community?
I don't think that it's going to help the Eastdale community or any inner city community, but I honestly believe that we have to start being inclusive of everybody. We just can't have those certain conversations with the people that's in power and the elite people. We have to reach out to people that are really struggling and those people that are in impoverished conditions, because the conversation needs to start there as well, because then we can understand what those individuals are going through, because those are the ones that are marginalized, that are disadvantaged, that's thrown to the aside and forgotten about.
Well, you mentioned elite. So in my research, some of the people that I spoke with said only the elite go to the dessert conversations, and it's at Franklin Macaulay's house. How do you speak to that?
I say first, they're right. But Demetrius said something very interesting. She said, we have to meet with this group as well. That's right. But where do I start? I start with where I am. Now look, I taught at Howard High School, and I was the first white assistant principal there. So it isn't that I've only dealt with only elite people. I did go to Macaulay School. I've been a public high school principal, though, with white and black from here to here in the socioeconomic scale. But I've got to start where I am with people I can meet and talk to, and one of the things I can do is I can talk to leaders, white leaders, mostly male, who can give jobs. Thank goodness we now have women, both black and white, who are getting some of the executive jobs. But there are whites who can give executive jobs who've never done so. You know why?
Why?
They don't know any black people. They know no black people. Sometimes it's just who you know.
Well, one of the recent polls said that 60% of white people and 71% of black people do not feel comfortable speaking about race with someone who doesn't look like them.
Which is why we wanted to start the conversation, Donna. And in our home makes a great deal of difference. I've been to meetings at churches, or where they have it in the, it's not the church meeting, they have it in church, or they have it in a hall, or nobody buys into that. When people walk into our living room, by the way, our living room holds 30, we have 60 people. You know why? Because when people are standing like that, they got to talk. They got to make some sense with each other, and they do. I have white and black people, Teresa and I, Mel and Eleanor, and a 32-member leadership team, 17 black, 15 white, who are working all the time, bringing people in, welcoming them, and I have people walk out, black and white, who say, you know what, I really needed this.
So Demetrius, when you think about the issues in your community, tell me, what do you think is going to help? Now, we've talked before this show, and you talked about race is an issue. Why is race an issue? And you talked about it comes down to black and white. Why is that so in your community?
Well, in my community, Eastdale community, and just speaking with the residents that's in my community, is that we have a race divide in it, because it used to be an up-and-coming community, thriving community, economic development opportunity, and now it's like, well, we're the forgotten community, because now it's predominantly black. We have transits in and out. Economic development is not there anymore. There's lack of opportunity. We have a lot of, gang violence, and so we're basically redlined for our community. So if we had a group of people like the Franklin McCaulleys coming to our community, knocking on doors and saying, hey.
Sounds like that's an invitation.
Right. Come to our community, knock on doors, meet the people in that community, get to know those individuals, because if you only being the product of what you see in your immediate environment, you have no idea that there's other positive things going around. That's like you taking someone, and it's abstract. It's abstract to them. If my window dressing only produce violence, I see no attorneys, I see no, teachers in my community, I see no one other than drug dealers, prostitution taking place, abandoned homes, abandoned commercial properties, and no one, even the city of Chattanooga, is not making an investment in this area, and it can be done. I'm a visionary. So when I think about how Main Street area, how it used to be, and that was one of the areas that was deemed as the worst area ever, even on the south side, and now you look at it now, how it's just blossoming. People are leaving, selling homes in Ooltewah, East Brainerd, where people wanted to live, and now they're coming downtown.
So we've heard all the stories recently, even in the recent news, but let's talk about Ferguson. How do we, Chattanooga, keep from becoming a Ferguson? How do we do that? We've got a lot of violence issues right now in the city, drugs, education. How do we keep from being the next Ferguson?
Well, I think that it's already Ferguson. We just live in Chattanooga. It just hadn't got to that point to where people just out in the street rioting yet. But we're rioting within our own selves. When you think about the police department, you can't even trust the police officer to come help you without fear of, even if I have my hands up, that I'm going to get shot. If I have some candy or walk down the street after hours, then I'm going to get shot. You get pulled over, you have this instant fear of, am I going to die tonight? Like, I have no idea if the police pull me over, if I make it back to my family. We shouldn't have to live like that. We should be able to know and feel safe when the police officers come into our area without us feeling threatened or feeling like we're being dehumanized. And it's just gotten to the point that it has to stop, because if not, we're going to continue to lose lives over this.
How would you answer that question?
It's because we don't know each other. We don't know each other.
That's a pretty simple, easy response, though,
It is
right?
a response.
Okay.
It is the response. We don't know each other. When a white policeman looks at a black person and doesn't know who that black person is, doesn't have any relationship possibly, and pulls out a gun, that's awful. That's terrible. I got to tell you something. I got white friends who know no black people. They have no black friends. None. Zero.
So for those
and therefore they don't have much empathy. They don't have much feeling. Why do we have schools without the kind of resources they ought to have? Because we got a lot of people who don't really very much care. We got a group of us right now working on the idea that we shouldn't give certain tax breaks to people who don't need tax breaks, who are taking the money from the schools, and those taxes ought to go to the schools. And we've got to do something for our public. So with the people in Signal Mountain care very much about their school, so they raise extra money. That is wonderful. That's great. Macaulay School, the people care about that private school, and they raise extra money. We've got to have everybody care about Howard School and Brainerd School and East Hamilton and Red Bank as much as Macaulay and Signal Mountain. We care about the parents care. I know the parents care. I was there.
So for the viewers who are watching right now, black and white and all other races, and we know we're talking more specifically about black and white right now, but this is truly our entire community. But for the sake of this conversation and the focus of Chattanooga Connected, there are people right now listening and watching. That doesn't apply to me. I live in my bubble. And that's on both sides. How do you begin to reach those individuals?
Well, see, you've said to me that just having a meeting in my house doesn't count. It does count. We intentionally reach out. And not only that, Chattanooga Connected has spawned about 10 other groups in other homes.
Where are those other homes? Where?
One of them is Ottawa. Several of them are in Chattanooga. Several of them are beyond Gun Barrel, out in that area. One of them is on Lookout Mountain. One of them is on Signal Mountain. One of them is a very wealthy part of North Chattanooga. Those are groups that, and one of the things I like about those groups, where our groups keep changing, we keep inviting new people in. Some of those groups have been 15 and 20 and 25, and they say, we want to keep at this. Those will make a difference. Now, the problem is how fast, and that's our problem. People have to reach out intentionally. When I talked with a white person who says, I don't know anybody, Carl Ruin came to this town, great Washington Post columnist back in the 70s, black man, and he said, you white, he gave a speech, mostly white. He said, you white people keep saying to us, why don't we have any black execs? He said, it's because you give out those jobs on the golf course. So we're not on the golf, this is Fort Tiger, so we're not on the golf course. We're not where you are. What I'm saying is we have to bring people together to know each other, to trust each other. Trust is a tremendous thing in the black community for white, when you're talking about whites, and they say that to me.
So Demetrius, from your perspective, for those who are sitting back right now who attend those meetings in your neighborhood, who say this isn't possible, how do we start that conversation, or not even start? We are continuing the conversation. But those who are in their bubble, how do you tell them, we need to do this, we need to make an intentional effort? How do you do that?
Well, for me, it's kind of easy because I just go knock on the door. And I'm one of those people that, hey, if you're not willing to accept me, I'm finna go knock on the door and say, hey, can we talk? Can we meet each other where we are? What is it that I can do to improve my conditions? How can you help me? How can we work together so we can soar together?
Well, Demetrius, I am glad to have you today. I'm glad to have Franklin McCauley today. We are not going to finish this conversation, obviously. Right. It will continue. So I do thank you both for joining me today. Two Chattanoogas. Is it just another conversation? Or are we really making progress? Join us next week on Point of View. What's love got to do with it? Gigolos, mistresses, and a little food and fun with the Chef of Love.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.